If you're feeling curious or concerned about the housing market in 2024, this video is for you. Today, I want to do two things. Number one, predict what we are going to see in the housing market in Ocean City in 2024. And number two, circle back on what I predicted in 2023 and how close or far away I was. And again, this is your first time watching a prediction video, I focus on the two big variables that drive the housing market here and anywhere. That's inventory and prices. But before I dive in, I would appreciate it if you find this helpful, or if you like the channel, if you're not already, to hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the like button. It helps YouTube disseminate this and get it out to more people, because I do this to help people make better decisions. And the more people this can reach, the more help can be provided. So with that out of the way, let's start with what happened in 2023 compared to my predictions. So inventory-wise, I predicted that by the end of the year, we would be somewhere between 300 and 325 homes on the market. The primary driver for that prediction was that mortgage rates were anticipated to stay above 7% and potentially climb even more. And if that were to have happened, fewer buyers would have been coming into the market. But what actually happened was the opposite. So we had rates start to come down to the point that they're now back in the sixes. And we've seen a stronger December so far, as I record this on December 29th, than was anticipated for that exact reason. That's not the only thing that resulted in my prediction being so far off, as we sit at a mere 235 properties on the market. I was almost 100 off. That's a big miss, and I will own that. The thing that I underestimated was the strength of what has been talked about a million times on this channel, the lock-in effect. That, simply put, is owners who have a rate that is lower than the prevailing mortgage rates are unlikely to sell, simply because financially it doesn't make any sense. I will hammer this home one more time. In Ocean City, everything, for the most part, is want-based, not need-based. People who will traditionally move closer to the beach, or go from a 3 to a 4 bedroom, or from a condo / duplex to a single family, it's a want, right? Do you mind squeezing the extra grandkid, the new grandkid that wasn't in the family when you bought the home here, into a bedroom for the 1 or 2 weekends that they may come down? You don't want to do that, but it's better than paying $5,000+ more per month to make an upgrade than you're paying right now. So the lock-in effect, combined with the fact that mortgage rates have actually receded, as well as what we're expecting them to do in 2024, which we'll hit in a bit, caused my inventory prediction to be way, way off. Now, as for prices, I had predicted that worst case scenario, we would see about a 5% reduction in prices. And at the time, that felt very conservative. The media and the prediction machine out there was all doom and gloom, where the common prediction was closer to 25% reduction in prices, which we did not see. Very few markets saw anything close to that. So at 5%, I felt reasonable that that would be a fair assumption. Now, for the single family market, that was about spot on. As we stand, we are roughly 5% off of where we were from the end of December last year. But for condos, that is not the case. As we currently sit, we are up yet again another 10% over what we saw last year. Now, for condos, that was definitely wrong. As things stand, we are up again about 10% from where we ended last year. So the tale of two different markets here, which again, in the market update videos, if you haven't watched, make sure you go check some of those out, with another one coming next week. We are going to be continuing to hammer home the difference between those two markets, as we're going to start to see a little bit more of a broadening gap, I think, between the two. So with that out of the way, let's get into what we expect to see in 2024. I'm going to start with inventory again and wrap things up with prices. So inventory-wise, what I had said about a month ago was, hey, look, we are likely to end the year at about 220 active listings, which is substantially lower than last year. And by substantially, we ended at about 250. So all things considered, yes, 30 homes is not the biggest deal in the world, but when you only have 250, 30 is a pretty big deal. So at 220, and based off of everything that I've seen, we are trending with historical norms. What I mean by that is, in a normal year, inventory tends to fluctuate throughout the year based on seasonality, but all things considered, it doesn't change a whole lot by the end of the year. So I believe that we will not go under 200 homes, but I also do not think that we will exceed 280 active listings at any point in time. And seasonally, again, things are going to fluctuate throughout the year. But by the end of the year, I anticipate that we are in roughly the same place, around 225 homes on the active market. Now, a lot of people have come to me with the argument or the thought or the question that if rates do come down, if mortgage rates do drop like they are anticipated to do, again, the Federal Reserve has already basically forecast and put out there that they expect to lower rates 3 times throughout the year. That could not happen. There could be more cuts. It depends on the state of the economy, inflation, among all the other, again, question marks and variables that we find ourselves dealing with yet again this year. We've got multiple wars going on. We've got threats from all over the globe. So what actually happens is anybody's guess, right? I don't have a crystal ball, nor does anyone, but we can make predictions based off of data, and that is what I do best. So I do expect mortgage rate wise, if we start to see that in the low sixes to high fives, I do think some sellers who are currently sitting on the sidelines will come back in. But when I say sellers, I don't mean that's going to make them come out and want to sell their home and leave the island. There's a lot, if you're out there looking at other 2024 predictions, there are predictions out there that in the Northeast, right? And nobody really talks about individual markets because it's too hard to do on a broad scale. But in the Northeast, baby boomers with over 10,000 crossing 65 years of age per day in 2024. Downsizing is expected to play a big role in a lot of markets, where a lot of those individuals and families are going to sell their current large home and downsize, whether that's in the same community, whether that is moving to Florida or another warmer market. There is expected to be an inventory, I'm not going to call it a boom, but an increase in a lot of markets. I want to be crystal clear. I do not expect that to have an impact here at all. If anything, I would expect to see that generation continue to potentially even upsize here as more and more grandkids start to come along. Again, the wealth transfer that is going to take place over time is going to, I think, play out differently here than in other places. With this being a place that continues to bring families together for generations and generations. And also there's been a lot, and I think people have finally understood the point, there's been a lot of regret over the years and the decades for people who have cashed out when then their kids come of age or their grandkids come of age, and all of a sudden they have to buy their way back here, and it's impossible to do. So I think people have learned that lesson, and I think fewer sellers are going to exist, outright sellers are going to exist in the future than we've seen in the past. So inventory wise, again, between 200 and 280, I think we'll end about 225. With that said, prices are going to be impacted a lot by mortgage rates. And again, mortgage rate wise, I don't think we're going to get to under 6%. I know we're in the sixes now. And in the second half of the year, that's when the bigger cuts are anticipated to happen. But again, mortgage business and the mortgage market tends to price in these upcoming cuts. It's not once a cut happens, we see the mortgage rates drop substantially. They're priced in already. So I don't expect to see any huge changes throughout the year. Obviously, again, that could change if the Fed comes out with different news and different guidance. But that said, and that being my core assumption for this year, I expect prices to increase another 3 to 5%. They're not going to drop. They're not going to skyrocket. And again, I don't feel comfortable necessarily going and saying single families are going to stay flat while condos are going to go up 12%. And then if we weight the averages, it's going to be 3 to 5%. I think going into this, if I were a buyer like you or a homeowner here, I would strictly be thinking, am I likely to gain equity if I'm an owner, and roughly how much? Or if I'm a buyer, how much more would I expect to pay if I continue to wait? And the key here is that seasonally, right, in the next 30 days or so, we're going to see demand pick back up. It's been quiet, not as quiet as normal because of what mortgage rates have done. But by the end of the year, I think it's safe to say that they will be higher than they are now. The prices will be higher than they are right now. So with that said, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. And if you have any questions or comments, if you think I'm crazy, I would love to hear it down in the comments. And once again, if you found this helpful, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Share this with somebody who is potentially looking to get into the short market down here. And that wraps it up. So thanks as always, and I will see you next time.